of fate.
This is the way. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Tells me when you'll Plemons.
Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optics Podcast, where we take a glance into blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in film, Devin. And today we're also joined again by Amanda from AMX NDA Reviews. And today we're here to give our spoiler-free thoughts on Martin Scorsese's Killer of the Flower Moon. And on the latter half of this episode, I will be reviewing the 4K Blu-ray disc of Barbie. And before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Threads at Film Optics, or you can email us at filmoptics@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. Again, that is optics with an X. So I guess we'll pass it back over to Amanda. Nice to have you back on for 2 episodes in a row. It's a new record for us. But how have you been? How's your weekend been?
I've been good from the last time that we spoke. I've been good. I've been catching up on horror movies. I unfortunately watched The Exorcist Believer, and that was a terrible experience in that movie theater, which only had 15 people, so that was great. But yeah, I watched that. I've been chilling, but I'm really happy to be back here with you guys to talk about a Martin Scorsese picture.
Cinema.
I haven't seen Exorcist Believer, but Devin has. And this is from the same guy who did the new Halloween trilogy.
Yeah, the same team. They're just hopping from franchise to franchise.
I don't
Hellraiser's
understand.
next.
Oh my God.
Like, actually, they're doing Hellraiser next. You guys didn't see this?
No. He needs to be stopped. No.
So Devin thoroughly enjoyed it from what I understand.
I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
I'm sorry.
But I understand. I can see why people wouldn't.
there you go.
Yeah.
Because it's not very scary.
It's
not?
not.
No?
No. That exorcism lasted like 45 minutes and I was like, okay. It wasn't too bad.
I guess, I don't know. Yeah, I know a lot of people were not super happy about Halloween Ends. I, for one, liked it a lot. I thought it was pretty cool, a nice little twist. And we still get our final showdown between, Laurie Strode and Mr. Michael Myers. That was a pretty awesome fight as well. But yeah, I don't know. I guess people just aren't. What is the name of the, is it a director duo for...
David Gordon Green's the director.
It's just, okay.
Yeah.
He also has, what is his name? The famous actor who writes horror movies. He's a comedy actor.
Oh, Danny McBride wrote it with him.
Yeah, Danny McBride.
Isn't it?
Danny
Yeah, it's
McBride.
Danny McBride. You could kind of tell that he wrote it.
I just think it's such a hilarious career arc.
I know, it's so true.
So, Amanda, without giving spoilers for people who haven't seen it yet, who may be listening, what did you not like about it? I'm curious because I haven't seen it.
I think you should go see it because it was not very scary, so you would not.
It's
have to
not
fear.
that scary. I think for me, it was the fact that I could have pinpointed certain jump scares that were textbook that should have happened and would have improved the horror elements for me. And they just did not do it. I think that the girls being possessed, we didn't have enough time with them actually being possessed and scaring the daylights out of their families. I think that would have been much cooler. But I felt like they tried to do something different while still tying it back to the original Exorcist, and they did it poorly in that case. So, there's a couple of things that just didn't sit well, but it felt very long, and there were too many ideas that they wanted to do based on religion that just didn't stick the landing.
And a trilogy, of course.
And the trilogy that we're getting. Woohoo!
Oh, so this is a trilogy. Okay. So
It's
this is
literally the
first.
same formula, from Halloween.
It is.
Okay.
It literally is. My God.
Like Exorcist version of Laurie Strode. Down to the T.
Oh my God. Now that you said it, it is. It's so, oh my God, they shouldn't have done it. That's right.
Maybe we need to do a watch party for this. I don't know. Man, well, I'm happy that you liked it, or I'm sorry that you liked it too, depending on who I'm talking to.
It's fine.
Yeah. But that's good that you've watched that and haven't finished or started Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but that's totally fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I will. Fine. I have to finish a book and I will read the book. I promise you. I will read it. It's 500 pages.
Amanda, she was like, oh yeah, I'll finish it before the movie comes out. And then I go on her Instagram and what do I find? She's starting a new audiobook.
It's an audiobook. It's different than an actual book. It's different. An audiobook is much faster for me. Exactly. But I actually bought Ballad of Songbirds.
Yeah, like I said, I think the book's back in my folks' place or something. So yeah, for me right now, I'm just listening to the audio. That's all I really have for any of my books, really. But yeah, it's nice. It's pretty nice. But Devin, how was your weekend? What did you end up doing? What have you been watching?
I had to watch this week's Loki and Gen V. Had to knock those out. 2 more great episodes. The Loki writers definitely knew what they were doing with a certain line regarding this movie coming out soon. There was a line revolving around cinema that I thought was very well placed.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
Man, yeah, we got a lot to watch, man. My God, I'm so excited.
It's piling up.
It really, really is. It's the weirdest thing, but I'm kind of happy, but kind of sad because it's like there's always something to watch, but like I have other stuff to play. I got Spider-Man 2 coming out October 20th. So the day that this releases in theaters for Killers of the Flower Moon is when Spider-Man comes out, and Super Mario Brothers Wonder as well. Totally forgot about that for a second. But yeah, a lot of people are very excited about that Mario game. But as I mentioned before, we're going to be giving our spoiler-free thoughts on Killers of the Flower Moon. And with all that said and done, without further delay, we will be right back after this introduction to our coverage of The Killers of the Flower Moon.
He told me you was going with Matt Williams for a time.
You talk too much.
I don't talk too much. Just thinking who I got to beat in this horse race, that's all.
I didn't realize this was a race. I don't care for watching horses.
Well, I'm a different kind of horse.
Onkashi. Shomikasi sheko shiajimi.
What was that?
Shomikasi. That's how you are.
I don't know what she said, but it must have been Indian for handsome devil.
And we are back with our Killers of the Flower Moon review. This movie is directed by Martin Scorsese and stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Lily Gladstone, Brendan Fraser, not Frazier, Fraser, like razor. That's what he said. He said it's Fraser, not Frazier.
Noted.
He said that during the whole whale thing when he was doing that for the whale. And I never really stopped to think about it. I was like, oh, I guess.
Same.
Yeah.
Nothing but respect for our king.
That is true. That is very true.
Big facts.
And and the synopsis is as follows. Members of the Osage tribe in the United States are murdered under mysterious circumstances in the 1920s, sparking a major FBI investigation involving J. Edgar Hoover. So, like I said before, this is going to be complete spoiler-free for everyone out there to listen to. We're not going to spill the tea. We're not going to give away any plot details. If you have either are familiar with the story, which is based on true events, which has been turned into a book and now a film, obviously, it happens. But for those who don't, because I know a lot of people out there don't like to read or listen to audiobooks or in general, it's very true. It's just one of those things Americans are good at is not reading.
You're like scolding your audience right now. You're like, how dare you guys not read?
I'm speaking
I think
truth.
he's scalding me specifically.
No,
No, non-reader.
I don't know what Devin does in his spare time. I don't know if he has a whole book
Definitely
collection.
not reading in my spare time. I'll tell you that much.
We read articles.
I read tweets.
I read tweets. I read threads and Instagram posts. But no, that was not a scold to Devin, just in general, because it just seems that anytime that like a movie that is based off a book comes out, it's like there's obviously, like the core, like the OG fans who go and see the movie, and then everyone else goes and reads the book after they see the movie. But obviously this is something that's based on true events. So, it's not like we're going through Westeros or Hogwarts or Panem or anything like that. But we're going to get into our initial reactions of this film. I'm going to start with Amanda, then go to Devin, and then I will give my thoughts. So, Amanda, what are your thoughts on this film?
I read the book by David Grann. He's an American journalist, and I think that what he did with the book, getting actual like factual evidence and the court details and working that into the narrative for Mollie Burkhart and the tragedy that her family faced, I think was really well written and structured. And I think that Martin Scorsese and Eric Roth, who co-wrote the screenplay for Killers of the Flower Moon, they both did an exceptional job adapting this. I think they authentically captured the nature of the Osage tribe early on in the film. They wanted to showcase who they were ahead of this massacre. And I think that, 3 hours and 45 minutes did seem to fly by for the most part. I mean, you can kind of feel the last half hour, but it's really engaging from beginning to end because of the story specifically. I think that Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro were fantastic working together. I mean, they haven't worked together since like Leo was a kid in like Marvin's Room and This Boy's Life. If you haven't watched those, I highly recommend. But Lily Gladstone was literally the heart of this film. She grounded everything with her performance. And even though she didn't have much dialogue, her looks could kill you. Literally, she cut through everybody just by a glance, and she was fantastic. So I think it's incredibly well structured. I think the score by Robbie Robertson was like the heartbeat throughout, and I just really, really loved everything about this. It's one of my favorite movies of the year, so it was good.
All right, Devin, what are your initial reactions of the film?
Yeah, going into this one, just knowing the length of this movie, I think you kind of have to strategize, especially if you're going to see it in a theater. So what I did is on my way to the theater, I ripped a Celsius, and that really helped because I was pretty wired the entire movie, the entire 3.5 hour length, which was very helpful. But I'm not saying that in a way that the movie was boring or anything, because I think it was a really well-made movie. I think the story was very compelling, and the journey that Scorsese and the writers take you on, it was definitely very well done. And like you mentioned, the cast here is just amazing. Leo and De Niro just at the top of their game, just like dominating the screen anytime they're on it. Kind of an evil, like kind of sinister version of Robert De Niro that you don't usually get to see that often, especially lately, and that was very cool to see. I just want to kind of to shout out the casting just in general. Like, there's some cool ass cowboys in this one. Like, I felt like I was playing Red Dead Redemption at times, just seeing these different weird and wacky characters pop up in their strange eyes and their cowboy faces, like straight out of the West, straight out of a video game. Just so well done. And I will say I definitely really liked the last hour or so. I think that's when things really pick up, and where the story starts to resolve itself. You start to get all all the intricacies of the drama and everything that unfolds, and you get some really interesting new characters that pop up. We get Jesse Plemons showing up. We get our boy Brendan Fraser showing up. It's just a really cool couple people that show up and really bring some life to the screen, and I really enjoyed that overall.
Yeah, I definitely agree. For mine, and I was actually shocked when I went to go see this movie. I did prepare myself mentally a little bit. I think my screening was at like 6:30 on, I think it was earlier this week or last week. Sorry, God, I'm getting like my weeks and my days mixed up. But I went to Mr. Old Letterbox and kind of just like wrote down my initial thoughts. So I'd said that I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed the movie, especially after doing some pre-watching research, just like a little bit beforehand, just to kind of get myself into the mood, into the vibe of this film. But discovering that it was like based on a true story from a book really intrigues me, because I was like, I mean, I'm just to come out and say it, rip the Band-Aid off for Orlando. She already knows this, but like I did not vibe with The Irishman as much as I wanted to, because I do like Martin Scorsese's movies, but there was something about this movie that was just hit for me. Like, you know, the film has a slow build, as you guys have kind of both said, but it definitely maintains, the interest of the plot. So like the entire time, like you can definitely feel like the slowness, but I actually read today that Martin Scorsese wanted the pacing of the movie to feel or similar to, I think, Beau's Afraid and Midsommar. And I was like, okay, I can definitely see that for Midsommar. I never watched Beau's Afraid, but yeah, the pacing is pretty much the same, where it's, again, like almost the same, where, you know, you're unraveling this mystery of like, okay, you know, who is killing, these Native Americans? And then you kind of get that answer probably like halfway around the movie. But after, you know, that is all discovered, you're still on the edge of your seat, because you're like, okay, is party A going to get away with this type of thing? And I think that throughout the movie, it kept you interested, it kept you hooked throughout the entire film. And the performances, of course, like you guys already mentioned, Lily Gladstone, Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, pretty much like the big three that were in this that were in this film, did an outstanding job. And it was pretty gratifying to see other like well-known actors in smaller roles, that add depth to the overall story. Like Devin had said, you know, Brendan Fraser makes an appearance, and a few others, and you're like, oh wow, like it's kind of like Oppenheimer all over again, almost in a way. But I think Martin Scorsese handled the sensitive subject of these events in a very tactful manner, making the world feel like authentic, and the threat felt real. It felt like tangible, because, you know, this is a very touchy subject, you know, that he is covering, especially, you know, being a white male director. You know, some people are just kind of make that comparison, but the way that he portrays these events are very interesting and very real, and just he did a great job at showing the injustice that was happening to the Native Americans, and it's kind of crazy. What you think about it?
I really like how he used the word unraveling, because that feels like the perfect use for here. Just kind of how the story unravels from where you start at the beginning, and then just things start to happen, and you start to notice little things, and then you get to the end, and it's fully unveiled.
Yeah, and it did have that Grand Theft Auto or like Red Dead Redemption vibe to it as well, Devin. You know, when it comes to, you know, Lily Gladstone and Leonardo DiCaprio's relationship, or just Robert De Niro and Leo's relationship within the story, with, you know, Leo being the young nephew coming back from the war, and, you know, Robert De Niro playing the uncle, and it kind of just it goes all over the place. Like, you know,
Yeah,
you
it feels like
see-
kind of like you're playing the Leo character, and like you're the main character of the story. And it's like he gives you just enough crumbs to like him as a character, but then he just does so many terrible things to undo that. And it's just kind of that tug of war, similar to in Wolf of Wall Street, where you want to like the character, but he's really not a good person.
Yeah, and I think the character's name is Ernest. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ernest Burkhart. Yeah.
I want to call him Ernie.
Ernie. Oh, Ernie. I would say he's more of like a great character because he's forced to make a lot of decisions in this story that you can tell, at least from the film, that he doesn't necessarily want to do. But I feel like Amanda's the one who actually read the book, so she could probably shed a little bit more light on that. But I guess, Amanda, passing it over to you, like how, when it comes to the book and to the film, like would you say it's a faithful adaptation, or do you think that, you know, as it usually is, the book outshines the film adaptation? Do you feel like it's matched?
I think it's matched, honestly, because as I was reading it, I could kind of visualize the storyline before going in to watch the film. And I think that what they did pull from the book is obviously centered around Mollie Burkhart and her entire family. But everything with De Niro's character as William Hale, who's the sheriff of Fairfax County, where this takes place in Oklahoma, I think that everything that happens with Hale is basically the factual evidence that is from, you know, the massacre and everything that's from the book. More like in legal terms, they did that through Hale, which I really, really thought was smart, especially how they placed at the introduction. Like you guys were saying that the first meeting between De Niro and DiCaprio really sets the tone for the rest of the film. And I think I'm going to shout out to Thelma Shoemaker as well, the editor on this project, who's been working with Martin Scorsese like since the beginning of time. What they did with the editing is that they kind of showed you what was happening around the area, and then they would like cut to William Hale, who's Robert De Niro, and I think that the audience gets a different perspective of the character. Meanwhile, he's putting this entire facade on, especially with his nephew, who's played by DiCaprio. So I think that structurally they really did do the best that they could, and it is completely a faithful adaptation. And I think that more people will probably read the book after this just to get more details, obviously, because that's what that's what books do. But I do think that they did an excellent job integrating everything as much as they could.
I do want to see this movie again. I definitely do, because it's I don't know if I want to see it in theaters again, because there was 15 minutes that I missed because I had to use the bathroom. Uh-oh. And AMC is all like, it was weird. It was, we'll have to talk about it later.
I did not have to take any breaks, surprisingly. Just powered through it.
I'm very surprised. I usually just power through it, but I powered through Oppenheimer. There was one bit of time where I was like, I have to use the bathroom really quick. And then I was like, oh, I'm a little bit hungry. And I don't want to say at what time, obviously what happens in the movie. But when I left, I went to use the bathroom, and then I was like, oh, let me go grab like a quick snack. And it was like a private screening, obviously. So I went up to the counter, ordered like my French fries or whatever. And they're like, what theater are you in? I'm like, oh, I'm in theater 9. They're like, okay, like what row and seat are you in? I was like, I don't know. It was a press screening for Killers of the Flower Moon. They're like, yeah, well, we're going to need you to have to go back to your seat and grab your seat number and your row number.
Never order real food at a movie theater. It
was just French fries. I told them, I'm like, you don't need to bring it to me. I can just wait here for it. They're like, no, it's like policy. We have to bring it to you. I'm like, okay, whatever. It was the most annoying thing.
I hate those theaters. It's just so distracting.
Yeah.
It's so extra.
Like,
coming in and out and the smells.
Like I get it, but it's like, I mean, if I say that I can just wait for it, I can just like wait for it. But yeah, I missed about like a good 15 minutes of the movie where fire was ablaze. we'll say that. I was mad that I missed that part. I know.
I'm so mad at you. Oh my God.
Mad at
That's
me.
that's the thing. There really isn't a good break time in this movie because every scene.
There really isn't. Every scene matters in this thing. Oh, that's so tough.
I thought there was, because I was like, okay, I got to a certain point. I'm like, okay, it doesn't seem like for the next 10 minutes they're going to be doing anything. I was so wrong. It was so wrong.
It's a slow burn, man.
It is. But I believe since Apple is the one backing this film, I believe it is going to be on Apple TV Plus within probably 45 days after its theatrical release, because that is definitely something that they'll probably want to do. I do want to see it again. I just don't want to see it in the movie theater again, because I do want to kind of just watch it at home, because I almost didn't go. I was so, but it was not
You're
my fault.
welcome. I forced you.
I was surprised to see those. It was Apple TV because I saw the Paramount logo and I was like, oh, so it's produced by Paramount but distributed by Apple, I guess.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. And there definitely has to be a 45-day window, I'm assuming, for this to hit to Apple TV Plus, just altogether, because heck, I mean, Coda is still on Apple TV Plus. We don't even have a physical for that though. That's a whole nother thing, but it's once, because Coda was in theaters for a bit and I was able to watch it, even though I already watched it at home. I was able to watch it again in theaters, but that was during award season, so
Yeah, they re-released it.
I guess is it Apple's then, or is it Paramount's?
It'll be on Apple TV.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess it would be Apple's then. Yeah. But yeah, I wanted to pass it back over to you guys. Or if there's anything else you wanted to mention that we haven't had a chance to touch on. I know it's a 3.5 hour movie for sure, and I know that could be off-putting to people. But I actually wanted to ask you guys a question really quick. So when it comes to, we know there's a lot of 3.5 hour movies that have been coming out recently, like Babylon, Avatar, The Way of Water, the Batman, things of that nature. Do you think that this film, that people will go see this in theaters? Not even just saying will it have a good box office run, but do you think the general audience will sit there for 3.5 hours?
I think Oppenheimer was kind of the good measuring stick for that because that was 2.5 hours, similar genre of rated R.
That was 2.5 hours? I thought it was 3.
I thought it was 3 on the... Yeah, it's 3 on the dot, I think. Yeah.
Okay, 3 on the dot, wow.
Yeah, so it's a 3-hour rated R biopic type movie. I think that was a good measuring stick for the audience that you can have if you have a great director attached to an interesting story.
I agree. Yeah, it's also in... this is his biggest release, actually, in 3,000 theaters. Yeah, he's never had something this big. And it's in IMAX as well, which is where I'm watching it on Thursday, just to give him the support.
Fancy.
Yeah. I think for him, it's a big deal. It's a big deal, especially at his age, to make something so incredible and moving and relevant, and also informative. I think it says a lot for him to be using his platform to share these stories. And I think it should be mainstream knowledge for everybody to know these stories. So yeah, I hope people go watch it in theaters. I hope that they kind of get reintroduced to Martin Scorsese, or be introduced to him for the first time. I think it's really important because he's literally the most, I'm going to say the most iconic director of our generation. And I think that his filmography needs to just be studied and loved more. So I hope he makes money in theaters. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. I hope more people are going to see this. I was talking to my mom about it. She's definitely going to see it. She probably is going to just wait for the Apple TV release. But then again, I don't know. She did see Avatar 2 and Oppenheimer in theaters. So maybe she'll go for this. I don't know. She hasn't gone to the theaters like in a while. Even like before COVID, she just didn't really go. Like I went to go take her to go see Avengers Infinity War. She dozed off for like a little bit, but like she still went. But yeah, she hasn't,
because it's not cinema.
Oh God!
I had to do it.
Got him. Just got him.
I do think that like if the movie's engaging enough, it doesn't matter how long it is. Cause like I was sitting there for like The Way of Water and I was like checked out after the first hour. Like I was done. I wanted to leave. Like I was so bored with it. I was.
Come on.
It has to be engaging. And I think Killers of the Flower Moon is a slow burn. You kind of feel that time, but it really is an intriguing story. And I think that's what gets people to like sit there. Like even Oppenheimer, people watched it like 2 or 3 times. Like you do not feel that 3 hours whatsoever, and each hour is better than the last one. So yeah, I think it comes down to if it's engaging, and then people will sit there.
Okay, yeah. So it's more about the pacing than it is the length. And I agree, because I will sit there and watch Lord of the Rings extended edition of the entire trilogy and like not even, it's like, to me, I'm fine with it. But yeah, I don't mind long movies as long as the pacing is there. I'm all for it. Like it has to be. So, and this movie, I think this is a good testament. When it came to Babylon, the first 2 hours like went by so fast, and then like when Tobey Maguire pops in,
that movie is a fever dream. Look at it, really history is a fever dream. Like what happened? How did this movie happen?
Yeah, and it's like, once you got to the end, you were like, it was just a lot. But for Killers of the Flower Moon, there's not a lot of characters that you have to really follow along with. Like, yeah, there are like, the townspeople, but it's pretty easy to follow along. It's a murder case of just, killing all of these Native Americans and why they're doing it, and who's behind it. It's literally, the basic, I guess, like oversimplifying it, but at the same time, it's very, it's very engaging. I really enjoyed it. But let's get into our final thoughts and our ratings for Killers of the Flower Moon. We'll go to Devin first, and then Amanda. So, Devin, what are your final thoughts and ratings of Killers of the Flower Moon?
Yeah, final thoughts. It's a very compelling story, and I really enjoyed the journey that the writers and director, obviously Scorsese, takes you on throughout this one. The cast is top notch, like top to bottom. Like everyone did their job and they did it well. Got to shout out Lily Gladstone. She was just kind of a powerhouse. Like, I'm not sure if I've ever seen her in anything before, but I'm sure this will be the first of many opportunities for her, I'm hoping, because she's going to get some award season love, and I imagine it's going to be good for her career because she deserves it after this performance. And as far as the score goes, I'll probably go with like a 92 overall, like really solid. Just not too much to complain about, and just a great movie.
All right, Amanda, what are your final thoughts and ratings?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's my second favorite movie of the year. You guys all know how much I love Martin Scorsese, and he's a seasoned storyteller. And I think that out of any director, any filmmaker, I think this story should have been told by him, because he knows how to structure an American tragedy, basically. And I think that the fact that he used his platform and brought members of the Osage tribe in to work on, like the script and, just stay on sets and make sure that like they're doing things properly. I thought that was something that he should have done, and he did do. And he's always learning too, as he keeps saying, even though he's in his 80s. I think it's just incredible work from him. This is like Leonardo DiCaprio is one of his best performances. I think it's so different from the rest. And that's why, like, I even talk about his performance in The Wolf of Wall Street as something that's different. So this is definitely up there. De Niro's scary as hell, and Lily Gladstone's phenomenal. So I'm at like a 95 out of 100. I think it's a near perfect film. It's so good, and more people need to watch it this weekend.
I agree. I would also give this I would give it a 90. Let's see, I give it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd. Yeah, I'd probably give it like 94, 95, like in there. Like I've said, it's one of those movies where I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. You know, it is that slow.
It's also
build,
one where it's like the more you think about it after, the better it gets.
Yeah. I think that's what really got me. So yeah, it's it's a darn near perfect film. So I probably would just go like 95 out of 100 altogether. You know, like it is a bit of a slow burn, but it's not a slow burn to the fact where you're like, oh my gosh, is something going to happen? Like there's a lot of great dialogue in this, or dialogue conversations in this film. And, you know, like we already touched on, like the performances, fantastic. Lily Gladstone did an amazing job, you know, kind of just acting with her presence more so than anything else. But, you know, it shows the unfortunate end that like her family meets, and, you know, the trauma that she's going through all of this. And honestly, even, you know, Ernest, as played by Leonardo DiCaprio, you really feel for a lot of these characters. There's a lot of great characters here out there. Obviously there is like, you know, the good guys and the bad guys, but you have the characters that kind of dance in between. And yeah, you just gotta watch out for those, you know, some of these people who paint themselves in a white knight fashion and try to like hide behind that facade. And those are the most dangerous people you got to kind of like watch out for. And I feel like this movie is very relatable even to like today's time. You know, it seems like it's the same old story. You know, this is like old America, 1920s. Obviously things have changed, but things are just more subtle now today than they have been. But just thinking back, you know, about everything that's happened with like the Native Americans, it really just it puts this movie in a different perspective. But I'm glad that Martin Scorsese is the one who kind of covered all of this all together. So yeah, that pretty much concludes our review of Killers of the Flower Moon. And before we get into the second half of our episode, wanted to pass it over to Amanda. First of all, thank you again for coming on to the show. You know, I know you wanted to talk about good old Marty and his latest film, but I wanted to pass the mic over to you to for you to let everyone know where they can find you online, what's coming up on your respective outlets, and where they can find you on the internet.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for having me on, especially to talk about one of my favorite films of the year, one of my favorite directors of all time. So thank you so much. Right now, I'm going to probably do a video review for Killers of the Flower Moon to set up for Friday. I also plan on doing a Naiad review because that's also dropping in theaters on Friday theatrically, I think, in Canada maybe. So that I have coming up, and then just catching up on TV. I'll have Loki episode 3 up to on Thursday on Candid Cinema on YouTube, and you can check out my website candidxcinema.com, and you guys can always follow me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Threads if we're still threading. I think we're still threading. So yeah.
I think we're still threading. X is on its way out the door. Like it is.
Yeah, it's getting
like
there.
I don't like this link thing. It's very annoying. It's
I know.
I can't deal with this anymore. All right. Yeah, definitely check out Amanda's work. The links to all of her work will be in the episode notes of this episode itself. Again, that concludes this portion of our show or episode today. So if you like what you heard thus far, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcast platform of choice, and make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at Film Optics. That is Optics with an X. And don't forget to share an episode of our podcast with a movie lover, whether it be your mother, your brother, or your significant other. Spread the love for the Film Optics podcast to a movie lover in need. And really quick, before we get on the latter half of this episode, we're going to talk about what's coming up next that you can look forward to on the show. We're going to be covering Five Nights at Freddy's Gen V episodes, pretty much the entire series outside of episodes 1 through 3. We have a separate review for that you guys can listen to, as well as Invincible Season 2 Part 1, because the season is being split into 2 parts. I'm a little annoyed, but it is what it is. And of course, The Hunger Games prequel, The Battle of Songbirds and Snakes. Again, a book that Amanda has yet to finish. And and for what you can listen to right now, you can listen to our The Fall of the House of Usher, which Amanda also joined us on for that review. You can also listen to our Dumb Money review, our The Creator review, and our Loki episode 1 review, and The Continental. We got all 3 episodes of that series up for you guys to listen to as well. So all that said and done, we're about to jump into the latter half of this review. So I will be right back after this introduction to our Barbie 4K Blu-ray review.
Oh, looks like this beach was a little too much beach for you, Ken.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken.
I'll beach off with you any day, Ken.
Hold my ice cream, Ken. All right, Ken, you're on. Let's beach off.
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
But you don't even know how to beach yourself off. How are you going to beach both of us
course
off? It
I know how
doesn't
to-
make sense.
Ken?
Why are you getting emotional?
You're going to beach
Come
both
on,
of us
Ken.
off?
Nobody's gonna beach anyone off.
And we are back with our Barbie 4K Blu-ray review. Before I get things started here, I would like to express my gratitude to Warner Brothers for providing me with a review copy of this disc specifically for this podcast episode. For those who do not know, the hit Barbie movie, directed by Greta Gerwig, is now available on 4K and Blu-ray as of October 17th, 2023. And the 4K boxing is going to run you around $29.99 at your local retail stores. That includes Best Buy for now. That's a whole different thing. Amazon, Walmart, Target, you name it. So if you are new to this section of the channel, this is part of the show where I like to gush about physical media and give you guys the tea as to whether or not this is a good pickup to add to your 4K Blu-ray collection. And what I usually do is break these into certain sections. I will usually give my initial thoughts on the film first. Then I will go into the picture and audio quality and then cover any special features if there are any worth mentioning. And then I give my final assessment as to whether or not you should add this movie to your 4K collection. So for those who don't know, we reviewed this movie when it first hit theaters, and my opinions have not changed. Greta Gerwig has made the impossible happen with this film, and I didn't think she was going to make this a blockbuster hit, but she definitely cracked the code. This movie was a major hit during the summer, as I mentioned before, thanks to the Barbenheimer movement, and made over $1 billion in the box office, making it the feel-good movie of the year. I mentioned in our theatrical review that I think everyone should go see this movie, even though Barbie is the point of interest. I think the film does an amazing job when focusing on the female gaze and has a few lessons for us fellas out there as well. And I had a lot of people asking me if they are able to or should take their kids to this movie, if this Barbie movie was a kids movie. And my response always was, you can take your kids to see Barbie, but it is geared more towards teens and above. There are a lot of adult jokes sprinkled throughout the film, but those jokes should usually go over children's heads. But let's get into the picture quality of this film. The film's color palette is beautifully adorned in shades of pretty and pink, making the colors truly pop. This film boasts exceptional picture quality that is nothing short of extraordinary, with meticulous attention to detail in constructing the Barbie land world, from plastic houses and cars to the simulated water to the plastic beach, not to mention the splendid costume design as well. That was literally out of this world. This movie delivers a visually and enchanting experience bathed in hues of pink. Even as Ken and Barbie venture to the real world in this film, the level of detail remains the same. It is consistent. I found that the differentiation between the two worlds of Barbie's world and our world whimsical. It was a great journey for these characters to go on, and it would, the HDR10, that high dynamic range, 10 plus 10, whatever you want to call the technical jargon. I know it's going to go over a lot of people's heads, but the HDR10 technology works its enhancements here. It's enchanted, allowing these vibrant colors to radiate without overly saturating any of the skin tones of each Barbie or Ken on screen, which is very important for the Barbies of color. The quality of the Atmos audio mix on this film is nothing short of brilliant. The storytelling becomes more powerful and distinct. The conversations come to life and add liveliness to the dance sequences. There's a lot of dancing and singing in this movie, which makes the pack a bigger punch. Those dancing sequences, it just makes it fill the room, and I absolutely love it. Especially the opening song, Dance Tonight by Dua Lipa. I have that on repeat on my Spotify. It is good vibes all around. And you'll also feel more immersed in the sound coming from all around, including the sides, the back, above, depending on your home theater setup, of course. But the most amusing sound effect in the entire film is the funny squeaky rubbering noise when Barbie, kind of like when Barbies move, they make that like rubbery squeaky noise. It's kind of funny. That element definitely stands out more, and it made me laugh throughout. It was just, those small little attentions to detail go such a long way. And as far as the dialogue, when it comes to the audio quality, it remains crisp, easy to understand. The sound levels are perfectly balanced. Overall, this movie is a blast when playing at a higher volume. I promise you, guaranteed it is. Man, the sound is bumping in this movie, in this 4K package. They did a great job with the 4K disc here. But unfortunately, when it comes to the special features, I'm kind of shocked here because, as I mentioned before, during the top of this recording, Barbie has hit $1 billion in the theaters. And I'm shocked that there aren't a lot of special features on this disc. I feel like they should have gone all out for this. This doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. This is easily everyone's favorite movie of the year, most people's favorite movie of the year. And we do have a few special features here and there that clock in about maybe 25 to 30 minutes tops. A lot of it is a lot of small little featurettes here and there. Welcome to Barbie Land, which comes in around 12 minutes. Becoming Barbie is around 6 minutes. Musical Make Believe, so on and so forth. And another one called It's a Weird World. That is a weird, like, annoying tongue twister. But yeah, there's a few small little featurettes here and there, but nothing worth noting on the special feature side. Again, this 4K package only gives you the 4K disc and the digital code. You do not get a Blu-ray copy for this. That is a separate package where you can buy the standard Blu-ray, and that also gives you a digital code for around a $5 to $6 cheaper price. But yeah, I'm very surprised that there's no special features to really note here, especially Greta Gerwig is a fantastic director, And if you haven't seen her other films such as Little Women 2019 or Lady Bird, you definitely should. She is a phenomenal director. Of course, she did direct Barbie as well. But yeah, I'm surprised, Warner Brothers didn't really, follow through with this. Like, this is one of, I believe so far, I think this is the only movie to hit $1 billion this year. Nope, I lied. There was Mario Brothers as well. This is the second movie to hit $1 billion, over $1 billion in the box office at the movie theater this year. And I don't know what the Mario Brothers, package looks like, but I can promise you there's probably way more special features in that set versus the Barbie set. But as far as my final assessments, I think everyone should buy this film. It is a great time. It is a fun movie for the family and friends to get together. Barbie is a film that shows that if you take risks, it can pay off in the long run. And this is a must buy for any physical collector out there. So with all that said, thank you again for Warner Brothers for sending me a review copy of Barbie for the purposes of this podcast episode. And that wraps up our show today. If you like what you heard on today's episode overall, please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform of choice. If you made it this far, thank you very much. And if you enjoy this show, share an episode with a friend, whether it be your mother, your brother, or your significant other. Be sure to share an episode of the Film Optics podcast with a movie lover in need. And with all that said, again, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That helps us out a lot with placement on the Apple Podcast ranking chart, or just the sphere that is the audio Appleverse thing. Yeah. And also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, all that social media garbage to stay in the know. I'm your host, Christian, and that was Amanda and Devin at the top of this episode joining me. And remember, life is like a movie. So go out there and make it a blockbuster.